This is the Gigabyte RTX 5060 WindForce Max OC. This is not a launch day review, it's a real world Indian user review, gaming, DaVinci Resolve, power draw, and whether 8 GB VRAM actually holds up in 2025. No hype, just results. Most people watching this video are not upgrading from a 4080. Like myself, they are upgrading from cards like the GTX 1650 or the RTX 2060. This card is in the budget of most middle class Indians who want to game on 1080p and edit video for at least 4 to 5 years from now. That is the perspective of this review. I purchased this card in mid-December, right when the RAM shortage hit the market, and I knew the GPU prices are going up, and I purchased it for 33,000 rupees from a local retailer because I love to support local businesses. We'll talk about the build quality of this model. It has two counter rotating fans, and on the bottom side you can see a part of the heatsink. Here is the GPU itself, and there are two heat sinks, each connected by the heat pipes. You can see the heat pipes over here. So this is a heat pipe reinforced design. And there is this 8-pin 12-volt connector. So keep in mind when you purchase your power supply unit. And as for the connectivity, there are 3 display ports and 1 HDMI port. Upgrading from this old GTX 1650 card, which is still a very capable and very powerful card. So this motherboard that I have is a B450 Gaming X motherboard from Gigabyte, and it has a PCI Express Generation 3 X16 slot. But the RTX 5060 has a PCI Express Generation 5 interface. So you might be wondering whether my motherboard will bottleneck the card. But to tell you, even an RTX 4090, which is a much more powerful card, does not meaningfully saturate the PCI Express Generation 3 X16 slot in any meaningful real life scenarios. So we are good to go, and I will prove it to you later in this video that the interface is not going to get saturated. So first, after boot up, I will head on to YouTube because that's what everyone does with a high-end graphics card. And then I will run the Aorus engine to overclock the card to safe limits. Now we will see the power draw. This is the idle power draw without the card engaged. Now I will turn on FURMark. FURMark is running at 180 fps, and now the power draw has increased to 273 watts. So the card is drawing around 140-150 watts. Now we will use DaVinci Resolve to render a 4K HDR video. This 4K HDR video is a 30 fps video. We will use AI interpolation to turn it into 60 fps. First I will change the color space in DaVinci Resolve to accommodate for the HDR video. There is the frame interpolation, optical flow enhanced better. This setting consumes the highest GPU power. Now that we have loaded the video into the timeline, I will stress the card to its maximum limits. This, mind you, this is already a 4K HDR video and I have already given some interpolation. Now I will use some color grading. I will make the process more complicated for the card, as complicated as it can be realistically. So this is the limitation of this card right now. I cannot get a realistic 60 FPS while playing in the timeline. Now I will output it for AV1, which is the most computationally complex output. The card is rendering a 4K HDR video while doing motion interpolation at the highest level and also some color grading at 18 fps. This is excellent. Earlier with the GTX 1650 I used to get 2 to 3 fps, so this is really great. Now I will do some handbrake encoding AV1 10-bit. I get more than 300 fps for 1080p videos for AV1, and for 4K I get around 80 to 90 fps. Now I will do some synthetic benchmarks. The first is 3D Mark Steel Nomad. So this RTX 5060 gets 30 to 30 score with graphics test of 32 fps. For the time spy, see, there is no throttling, and the thermal engineering of this card is great. It is awesome. See, the RTX 5060 has a base clock of 2200 megahertz, and under stress it can sustain around 2.7 to 2.9 gigahertz, which is great at overclocking. So the card can sustainably tolerate almost 500 to 600 megahertz overclock. The card only throttles down a bit, and the temperature remains below 70 degrees centigrade. Now we will do some gaming benchmark. This is Ghost Recon Breakpoint Ultimate Settings 1080p. Here is the full benchmark. If you don't want to watch the full benchmark, you can skip it to the next section. But I suggest you watch the full benchmark because you will understand how such complex scenes generate what kind of FPS. I know you are disappointed I am not testing with Frostpunk or Cyberpunk, but this is all I have right now. This is all I play. Now I am going to run Legacy of Thieves at ultra settings 1080p. This is a very graphics intensive game. I am going to turn off DLSS and make everything to ultra and enhanced. Well. This is a very intensive scene because of the foliage and the light rays, and you can see the FPS is locked at 60 FPS and the GPU load fluctuates between 30% to 50%. So this is a very good sign. The GPU is very powerful. So this is going to be my final verdict. The RTX 5060 WindForce Max OC from Gigabyte is not a future-proof card, but it is a very practical card. For 1080p ultra gaming, light to 1440p and DaVinci Resolve, it delivers exactly what most Indian users actually need.
It's your turn.
So with the GPU shortage of the 2025, it is not going to get better in the next 2 years. That is what experts say.
So where to next?
I suggest you grab it soon. If this Indian real world review helped you, consider subscribing. More practical PC and creator content coming.